It was a stormy night in Tampa, the kind where thunder cracks like cannon fire and the rain smears the windows into rivers of memory. Inside a quiet home on Davis Islands, a man sat alone. His silhouette was unmistakable, broad shoulders, a jaw set like stone, but his eyes were soft, weary. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, had just played his final game. This time, there would be no comeback. The study was dimly lit, lined with framed jerseys and trophies, but Tom wasn't looking at any of them. His focus was on a small voice recorder resting on the desk, its red light blinking patiently. He stared at it for a long time before finally pressing the record button. "Hey guys," he began, his voice catching for just a second. "Jack, Benny, Vivi." A pause. The sound of rain deepened in the silence. "If you're hearing this, it means I'm not around to say these things in person. Maybe it's years from now. Maybe it's tomorrow. I don't know. But there are things I need to tell you. Things I should have said more often. Before we go deeper, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Stories like these, hidden behind the lives of icons, deserve to be heard." Tom leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "You've probably heard 1,000 times that your dad was the GOAT," he said with a wry smile. 7 rings, comebacks, records, but none of that really mattered when it came to being your father, and I don't know if I was always good at it." He sighed. "Jack, I remember when you were little, how you'd ask me if I'd be home for your school play, and I'd say, 'I'll try, buddy.' You always smiled, even when you knew I wouldn't make it." His voice thickened. "Ben, you used to leave little drawings in my bag before away games. You once drew a football field and wrote 'win,' but not if it makes you sad. You were 6. And Vivi, God, the way you'd yell at the TV during games like you were coaching. I saw myself in you, not the player, but the fire." Tom glanced at a photo on his desk, him holding a baby girl, her tiny hands wrapped around his thumb. "I was there, but not always present. That's the truth. Football, it was my dream. But dreams cost time. And time, well, it's the one thing you can't get back." He leaned back, voice growing softer. "I'm not making this to apologize. I'm making it because I want you to know me. Not the man on the field, not the guy in the headlines. Just me, your dad." Thunder rolled in the distance. He didn't flinch. "You're going to grow up, live lives of your own. Maybe you'll chase big dreams too. Just remember, greatness isn't what they call you. It's how you love, how you show up for the people who matter." Another long pause. "I'll keep talking in this message. I want to tell each of you some things, just in case." He reached for a glass of water, his hand trembling slightly, and pressed pause. The red light went out. Outside, the storm continued. But inside that study, a different kind of storm had just begun. One made of memory, regret, and love, wrapped in the voice of a father trying to reach across time. The recorder clicked again, and Tom's voice returned, slightly steadier now, as if the first wave of emotion had already passed. "I want to talk about something I didn't understand until way too late. What it means to be there, not just in the room, but really there." He paused, as if searching for the right way to explain a lifetime of missteps. "You know how people always say I was the most prepared, the most focused, the most disciplined? That's true, I lived and breathed the game. Not just during the season, every single day. The off-season wasn't a break, it was a challenge. There was always another edge to chase, another reason to say no to being home." His voice softened, almost like he was confessing. "I missed a lot, not because I didn't love you, but because I thought love looked like providing, achieving, proving something, to the world, to myself." Tom's words drifted into memory, and the emotion behind them began to swell. There were birthdays where I sent videos instead of being there to blow out candles. Recitals I watched through grainy live streams while stretching in hotel rooms. I remember one Halloween, I was stuck in New England game week. Your mum sent a photo of all 3 of you in costume. I stared at it so long I forgot to eat dinner." He sighed deeply. "I used to tell myself, it's just one event. There will be others, but they add up. And one day you realize they weren't just events, they were invitations to show up, to listen, to be part of the little things. He cleared his throat. Giselle, she tried to tell me so many times, she'd say, "They won't remember the wins, Tom. They'll remember whether you were there when they needed you." I heard her, but I didn't listen. Not really. Not until it got too quiet. A small silence filled only by the low hum of background static. She was right. And I know there were moments when she carried it all. School runs, bedtime stories, tears, tantrums. And I know that came at a cost for her too. I owe her more than I can ever repay. His tone turned reflective, heavier. "Jack, when you told me you wanted to try out for your school's team, I acted like I was proud. But deep down, I panicked. I didn't want you to live in my shadow. I wanted you to love the game, but not feel like you had to become me." A beat. "Ben, when you said you didn't like football, I laughed it off. But the truth, it stung. Not because I wanted you to play, but because I worried that maybe I hadn't inspired you, that I hadn't connected." Another breath. "Vivian, my wild heart, you were always so fearless. You once asked me why I never cheered from the stands at your swim meet. I told you I was training. But the truth is, I didn't know how to be loud without a helmet on. I didn't know how to be your cheerleader the way you deserved." His voice cracked. "There's a part of me that still feels like I'm running out of the tunnel, lights blinding, crowds screaming. But it's quiet now. And in that quiet, I finally heard what matters." The tape stopped once more. Tom hadn't yet finished his message, but already it was clear. This wasn't a retirement. It was a reckoning. Years passed. The tape, once so full of urgency, sat forgotten in the back of a home office safe, buried beneath documents, passports, and an old Super Bowl game plan. Tom never mentioned it again. Not to Giselle, not to the kids, not even to himself. He kept moving forward. Retirement brought quiet, but not peace. He busied himself with commentary gigs, fitness ventures, and short-term coaching stints. He still trained every morning, still ate like he was in pre-season, but there was a different look in his eyes now, like he was chasing something he couldn't name. Then, unexpectedly, Tom was gone. A heart condition silent and sudden. It stunned the world. The headlines screamed with tributes, highlight reels, and numbers. But in the Brady home, time stopped. The man who had been indestructible in stadiums, who had stood at the center of roaring arenas, had vanished without warning. Giselle was the one who found the recorder. She was cleaning his study, methodically going through drawers, not looking for anything in particular, just trying to breathe through the weight of grief. She found the safe open, its contents in gentle disarray, as if he'd been searching for something recently. And tucked between folders was the small device, the red light off but still intact. She held it for a long time before pressing play. Tom's voice, calm and intimate, spilled into the room. It hit her like a wave, familiar yet distant, raw yet measured. She listened to the first few minutes and then stopped. Her hands trembled. This wasn't just a message, it was something more, something meant for the kids. At first, she wasn't sure they were ready. Jack had just started college, living on his own in New York. Benjamin was exploring art, wrestling with identity and silence. Vivian was still a teenager, but carried herself with the kind of resilience only found in those who've grown up with fame and fracture. Each of them was grieving in their own way. Jack refused to speak about football. He avoided the press, skipped public ceremonies, and kept his father's name at arm's length. Ben stayed quiet, locking himself in his studio for hours, drawing sketches with broken lines and unfinished faces. Vivian, bold and restless, tried to take care of everyone else. She baked, she organized, she distracted, but Giselle saw through it. The night she decided to share the tape, it was raining again. She called them into the living room without explanation. They sat in silence, unsure of what was about to happen. Giselle placed the recorder on the table, pressed play, and stepped back. The room filled with Tom's voice. There was no fanfare, no formal goodbye, just a father's words, simple, emotional, direct. The same voice that had once called out bedtimes and bad jokes, now reaching them through the static. At first, none of them reacted. They sat frozen, absorbing every syllable. Then slowly tears began to fall. Jack clenched his jaw, blinking hard. Ben buried his face in his hands. Vivian moved closer to her brothers, laying her head on Jack's shoulder without a word. The tape didn't play like a letter. It played like a presence. He was there in the room, talking only to them. And in that moment they realized this wasn't the end of their story with him. It was the part they didn't know they needed. Tom's voice continued to flow from the recorder, steady and warm, like a thread stitching together memories too long left in the dark. I want to talk to each of you now. Not as the man you saw on magazine covers, but as your dad, flawed, learning, always loving. His tone shifted, gentle but intentional. Jack, you were my first. I didn't know what I was doing, but you taught me how to be a father just by being patient with me. I remember your questions, so many of them, about life, about right and wrong, about why I had to leave so often. I didn't always have answers. I still don't. But I do know this. Your curiosity is your compass. Follow it, and it'll lead you to a life that matters. Tom's voice paused briefly, then resumed with a different cadence. Ben, I know you always felt different. Quiet when the world around you was loud. You saw things the rest of us missed. There were times I worried I wasn't connecting with you. That maybe you were slipping through the cracks of my busy life. But you never did. You were always there, watching, feeling, building something beautiful inside yourself. Don't be afraid to show the world what you carry. It's more than enough. Another breath. A trace of emotion wavered before he spoke again. Vivian, fire and sunlight all in one. You challenged me in ways I never expected. You weren't afraid to call me out, even as a little girl. You once told me I was better at throwing footballs than giving hugs, and you were right. You reminded me that love isn't just shown, it has to be felt. Don't ever dim that light inside you. It's fierce, it's real. The message shifted again, his voice thickening with reflection. I know I missed things. I saw the toll it took. The quiet disappointment when I couldn't make it home. The way you tried to understand, and still you never stopped cheering for me, even when I didn't deserve it. He exhaled, steady and deep. There were times I was scared, not of sacks or defeats, but of not knowing who I was outside of the game. I wondered if you'd still be proud of me when the uniform was gone. If I was still enough without the noise. Then came a silence that felt heavy, intentional. Greatness, he said finally, was never about the trophies. It was in the bedtime stories I rushed through, the drawings I didn't hang, the questions I brushed off because I was watching film. I missed so many chances to be great where it mattered most. But the tape wasn't only regret. I want you to know I saw you, even if it didn't always seem that way. Jack, your calm strength. Ben, your quiet brilliance. Vivi, your unstoppable heart. You three are the only legacy I care about. If anyone asks what I was most proud of in this life, it was being your dad. As his voice lingered, it didn't feel like a goodbye. It felt like a bridge. For the kids, every word peeled back the armor they hadn't realized they were wearing. This wasn't just a man reconciling with his past. It was a father giving them the pieces of a puzzle they'd carried since childhood, finally letting them see the full picture. They weren't just the children of a legend. They were the reason he became one. The days that followed were quiet. But something had shifted. For the first time since Tom's passing, the kids began to talk, not about football, not about the headlines, but about memories. The way he burned pancakes on Saturdays, how he insisted on matching Christmas pajamas, even when they rolled their eyes. The inside jokes only their family would understand. The recorder became a kind of anchor, not just a voice from the past, but a reminder that love, real love, can stretch across time. They didn't listen to it again. Not yet. Once was enough. For now. Jack called more often. He sent Ben a book on design and offered to visit his studio. Ben, in turn, began sketching new work, sharper lines, open spaces. Vivian, who had spent weeks trying to hold everyone else together, finally let herself cry in front of them. And when she did, no one tried to stop her. One afternoon, Giselle sat down at her desk, paper in front of her, pen in hand. She began to write. "My loves," she started, "you've just heard the most honest version of your father. I hope you understand now why he was always chasing something. Not just victory, but meaning." She paused, letting her thoughts settle into words. He didn't always know how to express it. His heart beat in plays and plans, not always in words. But everything he did came from a place of wanting to protect, provide, and prepare you for a world that can be hard and beautiful at the same time. Her hand moved steadily across the page. He taught you strength. But more importantly, he learned from you how to be soft, how to let go of the spotlight and hold on to something more lasting. She folded the letter and left it in a drawer with the recorder. She didn't say anything to the kids about it. They would find it when the time was right. The legacy Tom left behind wasn't in the records or the rings, it was in this quiet healing. In the way his children began to see him not as a giant, but as a man who tried, a man who stumbled, who learned too late, but who still chose to speak, honestly, openly, finally. And in the very last seconds of the recording, after long pauses and hushed breath, came the line that stayed with them the most. "If you remember anything about me, let it be this: I loved you more than winning." That was the truth. Undeniable, undimmed. Later they would play that final line again, on birthdays, anniversaries, quiet Sunday mornings when the grief crept in. Not to mourn, but to remember, to reconnect, and to remind themselves that even the strongest among us can be vulnerable, that love, when spoken with truth, leaves a deeper mark than any scoreboard ever could. So this wasn't just a private message from a father to his children. It became a reminder to anyone listening: the people we love deserve to hear it, not someday, but now. Thank you for joining us in this story. If Tom's words moved you, take a moment, reach out to someone you love and say what matters. And don't forget, subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories that reveal the heart behind the headlines. And right now, click on the next video you see on your screen. Trust us, you won't want to miss it.